Hello, everyone. I get so nervous with that goddamn intro thinking it's 1999 and I'm in a nightclub again. It throws me off. Anyway, my heart is pounding. Welcome back, episode 142, folks. Sponsored by our friends at Beat It Sport. Check them out online. Use the code FLA10. You'll save 10%. And big sponsors of ours, but also, I'm a big believer in this stuff. It has a lot of nitrates that are really good for blood flow and for your heart. And I've taken it a lot before I train, and it's kind of like a BCAA. Is in the middle of training, it kind of gives you that extra little push. And definitely, it's weird at first drinking cold or beet juice, but it tastes pretty good and does the trick. So check it out online. Anyway, let's get right into it here, folks. We've got a really great episode lined up. It's a guy who I've been following again for a while, who I've been trying to get on the podcast for a while, and it just kind of hasn't worked out on my behalf. I dropped the ball a couple times with dates and things like that, but he's been good enough to join us this time and work it out. So without further ado, this guy's, he's got a great amateur record, 3-1. Now he's into the pro. 0-1 as a pro. His last fight kind of ended. I want to talk to him a little bit about that. It was an interesting fight at BTC, a tough fight. This guy is definitely a guy who likes really challenging fights, and he's a really high-level athlete himself, coming out of Toshido MMA out in British Columbia under Mr. David Lee and crew. So let's bring him on. Without further ado, Mr. Paul Blais Fisher. How are you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for such a nice introduction. That's so kind of you.
Hey, it's very true, man. How you been? How you hanging in there?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
About the same. Like we talked a little bit off air. It's an interesting battle. We're all kind of in this together, but it's I don't know. Some days I find myself a little bit more negative than others. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, that comes with the times for sure. Everyone's dealing with hard times, so you're not alone in that conversation.
No, that's it. Well, again, thanks for joining us, man. And you're out in Kelowna in BC. And how's training been for you?
Training's been good. We've been able to still stay active just with a small group of us. Following and abiding by all the guidelines set out. Mm-hmm. So we're dealing with the restrictions we have, but I feel very fortunate that we're still able to train and get the rounds in that we can. I feel like we're lucky that we're still able to get practice in with the high level guys. So I feel very fortunate in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, professional athletes, at the end of the day, like your career just can't stop. Like for 6 weeks or, a month, I get it. But for 2-year period, that's not possible.
No, yeah, you can't. Otherwise, there's going to be no progression.
Definitely not.
Learn your skills so that you can execute on fight night.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, well, let's get right into how you got to, that's one thing I like to cover. And that's the whole kind of concept of this podcast. Like, obviously, we're a promotion on the East Coast, but I'm a fan of MMA. I'm a big jiu-jitsu fan. And that's, for me, it's about meeting other athletes and people who can kind of put it on the line in the cage, man. I really respect that a lot. So I love meeting people like yourself. And how'd you get into this goddamn sport?
I think like lots of people, I like to fight. So, growing up and getting into lots of fights here in small town British Columbia, kind of the way in Canada out here. So after high school ended and the fight stopped, I wasn't done fighting, so I wanted to keep fighting. So I decided I had boxed a bit as a kid that I'd try MMA out after watching GSP and all the good Canadians out there. Mm-hmm. So I decided I wanted to give it a try, and best job a kid could ever have.
It really is, man. Like for somebody who's really competitive and really likes the challenge and the experience of the rise and fall of fighting, and like it's an incredible thing, man. And, out there where you are, you're in Toshido MMA. So you say you follow GSP and these guys, and then you go and now you're training with like, man, that's a super high level gym.
Yeah, super fortunate to be able to walk into a training room like that because the bar is set so high. So naturally, you're able to walk in and get some good aspirations and train with high level guys, and iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. Right. And that's one thing I noticed, like about, if you can, and again, like I'm not a guy who like my whole probably like I trained a lot, like probably 5-6 times a week at one point. And then now I'm probably down to like, I'm going through a little thing now where I'm like maybe training like once a week at that. Like I'm just kind of going through this negative spin but like when you go back at it and you're like, when you can get in that mode of training 2-3 times a day, and that's what an MMA athlete has to do. It's insane.
Yeah, you got to cover your bases. So we're learning so many sports at one time, on top of conditioning and being able to have the lungs and everything else to go into a fight prepared.
Yeah, it's true. That's it. So you started boxing, eh? Well, it's funny because so many people are like, oh, I get into jiu-jitsu, but I like that. It's a totally opposite thing.
Yeah, boxing was awesome. I just liked in the small town I had, we didn't have much for MMA schools. I'm from Vernon, which is a little bit north from Kelowna, actually. So we're a little bit smaller of a municipality. So we only really had a boxing facility that was like government subsidized and whatnot.
Gotcha.
So it was a great little program, good people, but that was kind of the only thing happening, I would say, as far as competitive level martial arts, which was competitive athlete. So I wanted something to compete in.
Yep. So boxing it was.
Boxing it was.
Yeah. Do you still have interest in that? Like, do you think you'd be interested in like competitive boxing as well? Or you're MMA?
Whatever fight I can get, man.
Yeah. Right now it's
kickboxing, boxing, fucking jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Anything to compete, I would love to. So.
It's interesting, man, like out there, because I see Rise and BFL, like they're both promoting that they're going to come back in March. I don't know what's going to happen there. I'm praying that they do. We're planning to come back in March too, but
give me that smoke, bro.
It's crazy. Have you been in contact with those guys, or?
I've been talking to them, but locking stuff down is just tough between fighters bitching out and injuries and whatnot that are legitimate. And then just obviously COVID adds a whole other thing. I had a hard time getting before COVID, let alone now with all this. So,
well, that's it, man.
You know,
I wanted to talk to you about that.
Motherfucker, man.
That's the thing. Like, you have 8 canceled fights
and more. You know, like there's stories of like so many fights that have fallen through. It's ridiculous. I never thought MMA would be a thing where it was so hard to compete. I thought by the time we were fighting, we all agreed we were professionals. If you signed a contract, you were going to show the fuck up. But yeah, that doesn't always happen.
That blows me away, man. We've had a couple instances in our cards too, like that, and it's like Tyler, you know, like he's another guy who's had a lot of canceled fights, and it's fuck it, bro. It blows my mind, and it drives me nuts as a promoter. But I also I don't have that competitive okay.
Counts as a win in my books, you know. On like if it's not legit and you bitched out, you weren't even ready to show up, and you call yourself a professional now when we all said we were going to do this. So if it's legit, it's legit. But if you're bitching out, then what are you even doing here? Yeah. It's not a sport for you, for sure. Yeah. You're wasting everybody's time. And and I often think you should almost have, there should be there's been instances, I know people out here in the East Coast, sometimes people haven't even showed up to weigh in. It's at the weigh-in, it's like, what the fuck? Your license you're never ever fighting again, in my opinion. For life. Yeah, for sure. And then the other guy's missing out on not only money, but the opportunity to get anywhere. This is the whole thing. We're here to compete, not talk about and take pictures on Instagram and post it like you're some tough guy. Well, that's it, because no one gives a shit. No one gives a fuck anyways. Even if you are, people are going to write you off if you lose anyway. Saturday, they're your fan. Monday, they think you're a punk. It's like, it's so stupid, man. I know. Social media is bananas. The game is bananas, because it's weird how there's guys like we're talking about, and then there's other people who literally, the people who contact me to fight, and I'm like, really? You want to fight? And they're like, fuck yeah, I don't care. I'll fight anybody. And you're like, yeah, if they show up, then. Yeah. They're going to sell as many tickets sometimes as the person who wants. It's crazy, right? It's a weird sport, man. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. I feel envious of so many other sports, even growing up, that I played, like basketball. The other team has to show up, you know. Yeah. I often wonder why. I like the PF. What do you think about the PFL? The whole season, because I think it's as a fighter, I really like the thing. Okay, if even say, let's say the UFC, if you have under 2-3 fights, okay, you're making $75,000 a year. Okay, and once you get over 3 fights, you're making $500,000 or whatever it is. Money compared to what most fighters are struggling to make now, anyways. Fuck, if you money and I could live off fighting anyways, that'd bring it to a whole other level again. Yeah, that's what I think it needs to have, an actual constant, stable income, right? So fighters aren't always worried about and just competing. That's how you actually get better. You get better in the gym, especially if you're training with good guys, you get better, but you get better every time you walk out there to get the whole thing in. Yeah. Opportunities. So, and just that's the deal. That's why we're training, is to fight on fight night. So
yeah, you're not training just exactly like you said, take pictures on Instagram.
Go to a 6 p.m. jiu-jitsu class. It's like, okay, fuck off with that.
Yeah, you're here to fight. Exactly. That's the thing. And yeah,
if that's your thing, that's your thing. But if you're like, you're gonna fight professionally, you should just show up to like peak for that night, show up and fight. And so I can fight. Yeah, like I don't know much about the PFL season thing, but any promotions where they're big enough and the fighters are fortunate enough that there's enough of a pool of fighters in there that if fights are falling through, I feel like, and you're fortunate enough to be active, that would be such a blessing. I would love that. I would love to just be able to compete, fight 4 times a year, and be able to get these fights in.
That's it. Like you get 4 fights in, and then next year your life can completely change with a different promotion or whatever it happens to be, man. Like that's what our goal.
That's why I'm in this. I just want to win. I want to compete. It was like amateur, you fucking compete for free. I'd compete for free at this point. I just want to have a fight. So
yeah, man. Well, hopefully we can help make that happen, man. And that's what, like, your pro fight. What, like, let's talk about your last fight at BTC a little bit. Like, man, you were supposed to fight Series City before that too. Like, man.
Yeah, we kind of had like a curse. I think I broke my foot the first time I was supposed to fight him, and then he broke his other foot the week before we were supposed to fight. And then T-Shay's fell out, but props, like T-Shay stepped up and we fought. So like good for him, like that was awesome. We had a good fight. I got fucked up in that.
Oh, that's exactly it. Yeah.
It got poked. I got like corneal abrasion when I went to the doctor. My eyeball was like the thing that was jacked up. And then I just went too into fighting at that point, but I was still there 100%. I wasn't rocked at all. That wasn't a TKO. I was still good to fight 100% in my books. I had the cuts and whatnot, but that shit happens. I was still there to fight 100% to compete.
Yeah.
But again, like T-Shay shows up for fights. T-Shay's fought in like 4 times since then. He's a good fighter. So,
very much so.
I'd fight that guy again 100% because at least he shows the fuck up and he's a good fighter. He's there to scrap. So I'm all for guys like that. I'm all for fighting the top guys. I've always tried to fight the top guys who are going to show up and fight. And I'll still stand behind that because those are the guys I want to compete against and win against.
Man.
I don't fight cans, you know what I mean? Especially at this point when fights are hard to get. Like, I just want to.
That's a promoter's dream, man. That's the kind of stuff you'd love to hear, man. Like people who just want to compete and kind of test their limits. And I love that. I think there's so many people like.
Right, like if I had 2 eyes, I guarantee that would have been different. I do have fucking 2 eyes every day now, so I'm good.
Yeah, that was a weird stoppage to me. Like at the point of where it was stopped.
They should have just stopped it. I mean, earlier, where like but like whatever. The past is the past. I would kick the shit out of that so I'm not worried about any of that stuff behind me at this point. So I could care less about that whole thing. So I'm ready to go forward, and like we'll have other things to say later. So
what's the big goals for you coming out of this? Obviously you just want to fight, but anything else outside the gym like you're focused on business wise, personal goals?
Personal goals, just be a good man, like any guy. I think well said. Like just that's the thing in itself. But as far as MMA, I definitely want to compete at the highest level and take this to the highest level, win as much as possible, get to the UFC. I want to push myself. I want to be a champion. I believe I can be a champion. So that's what I train for every day. I train with top level guys that they have the same aspirations as I do. So
yeah,
those are as far as MMA. Life's the whole other thing.
That's the thing. Like what you're doing all the right things, man. Like Stephen McDonald's a guy from out here as well on the East Coast. Like that gym is, man, very underrated Canadian gym.
Pound for pound, I'd say we're number 1.
I would have to agree. Definitely one of the top for sure.
Let's go.
It's we should do like a team event sometime, team grappling event.
Get Dave in there too. He'll fuck people up.
Yeah. Does he still rolls pretty often, or
like hit and miss like any coach, I think, but he's still in good shape, and I think Dave's underrated. He's like the best coach in the world in my books in MMA. So
super nice follow too, like very personable, and not that I know him that well, but anytime I've communicated with him, he was very, very nice. With like, that's to me is like, the humility of people. Really kind of,
he's an amazing human being. So on all levels. So
I saw your thing today on Instagram, your story there, man.
Yeah,
what a beautiful place, British Columbia.
Thank you. Yeah, it's again so fortunate here to be able to get out. Like when I do my road work every morning, it's so beautiful. So that in itself, there's so many other blessings going on. But yeah, fighting is just one thing, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
British Columbia is an amazing thing, even with COVID, you know. Fortunate
yeah.
to wake up in Canada.
Did you get to do a little traveling at all through COVID, like through the province at all, or?
Like in the summer, like you can get out to Kootenays and stuff. I do a lot of camping, me and the girlfriend. So we get outside as much as possible. Super fortunate here again to be able to get outside to things like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as we can, again, it is what it is everywhere, I believe. So
Have you ever
how's
been
it?
out here? It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like
Yeah, you guys are super low on the case count and stuff, so life must be pretty good.
life. Like the restaurants are open here. Like pretty much. I don't know if 50% capacity or full capacity. I'm not really sure. We had a little shutdown there over Christmas a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're 9 cases in the whole province, I think, right now. So we're this close, man, to getting the word to come back. Like we're really prepared, and we have all the fights made. Pretty much the contracts are going out next week, and medicals are almost finalized for a lot of fighters. So if
That's
we
awesome.
can get the go ahead, man, we're going to pull off a couple amateur shows and kind of get that.
Is that what you're like kind of stuck with right now is amateur fights? Is that what the sanctioning bodies are kind of doing with you guys?
No, we could do pro too, but it's just limited spectators. So it's like the commission fee and everything. It's just the expenses of everything. Just
at least you're realistic and you're honest and apparent about that. I appreciate that as a businessman.
Well, that's, we have to be, right? If we want to be here and to be able to put on those pro fights in the fall, which is our plan, we got to do it a little bit smaller and kind of make sure that we're getting through these shows, because we're just new. We've only put on one show, right? So fuck, I don't give a shit about those pictures.
It looked like you guys had a great card. Congratulations on that.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's a lot of hard work, but we're not those. We're like really aware that we're not like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. So like we're learning and we're trying to just be as best as we can for.
Who fucking does?
That's it, man. That's it. The people taking the pictures on Instagram
and punching each other. So good for you pulling it off.
But that's, man, I'm a big, like, I don't like to see people get hurt. That's a big thing for me. But I do like to see people compete hard and get opportunities. And for us, like, we did a lot with the jiu-jitsu scene out here and doing all these pay-per-views and shit that we used to do back in the day. And it was like, well, why? Like, let's try MMA. Let's get there. And we tried, and I think I think the East Coast definitely needs it, and there's other promotions out here too, and the more promotions, the better. Like if you can have athletes, like we're looking to do fights every 6 weeks to 2 months.
Oh, like yeah, that'd be it's so good, especially for your amateur program for kids going up, because that's another thing that Canada just doesn't have. That's unfortunate. Like myself as an athlete, but it's hard to see that even just developmental MMA. Like you would love to see kids being able to compete in all the facets of martial arts, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, everywhere it's kind of different. Some scenes are big boxing scenes, some scenes there's more like Toronto. There was a lot of the MTO does a good job of Muay Thai events, but I would love to see that for MMA too, where there's actually a progression, like Golden Gloves in the States with boxing. Just that would be awesome. The kids would be so much better.
That's one thing I like out here. The commission does a good job. So in the amateur, and it was developed also a lot with Peter Martell, another promoter here. They all kind of worked on it together. And it's the amateur rule set. If you have under 3 fights, you can't strike on the ground. So it's kind of like forced jiu-jitsu, which in the use 6-ounce gloves compared to 4, which I kind of, and then after 3 fights as an amateur, it's full strikes on the ground, full head kicks, whatever. But there's no shin guards and there's no headgear.
Yeah.
So it's kind of realistic. I like it.
Weighted system, which is good.
It's like people people think they know how to fight until they get in there, right, Paul? And then their first fight, and they're like, "Oh fuck!" It's just like,
they get hit in the face. Like Mike Tyson said, everyone has a game plan until they get punched.
Yeah. So it's exactly like what you said. And I'm not saying that from my experience. I'm saying from like all the fighters you speak to, how many times you get in there, the cage door shuts, and that's when you're going to get comfortable, right?
100%, and that's where if you're competing, you get the opportunity to get comfortable.
Yeah, but that's it. Consistency, man. Like if you can have something like here's a guy, for example, like on the East Coast, Rob, he fought in our first card. Should be an age gate on that 3 because he's like, I don't know, how old are you, Rob? 78? Or like no, I love Rob. He's like my age, 40 or something, 30, 38, 40, and he really has goals in the sport to get to a certain like a couple pro fights, and that kind of stuff holds him up. So I can see both sides of it, right? And but it's safety's number 1 for sure.
It always has to be in any combative sport. But that's what the good doctors and stuff are there for.
Yeah, well, I learned a hard lesson this event, like, your first event, and here's the doctor stopping the first fight, and I'm over yelling at her, like, what are you doing? And she's like, the fuck are you? Like, the commission's like, get out of here. You're not allowed to say anything. And I'm like, oh, you learn real quick.
Oh,
like,
I bet.
It's not like
show once it's there, it's the commission's.
Yeah, you're just another fan. So,
yeah, exactly.
And at the end of the day, it's safety. So I just have to shut your mouth and walk away.
Totally.
There's our guy there. He's a handsome fellow.
He's the best.
Great guy, man.
Yeah, him and his wife both. They're great people.
Yeah. It seems like you guys have a lot of really good, positive people out there, man. I really like that. I like that the amateur career, because I think it's really important too to get all those cobwebs kind of out until you can kind of make the next step. So BC does have good amateur.
Yeah, they had a good amateur program out here. Again, I think it's a graduated system as well. I remember in one of my first fights, you couldn't strike on the head either, like you said. So it was essentially a jiu-jitsu contest on the ground.
Yeah,
exactly. And like you said, it's a good thing to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Same as boxing, starts with shorter rounds, longer breaks. So everything is a graduated system, which it kind of should be.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. And the levels that makes the professional level carry so much further. When you get two people who are like 0-0 as a pro and they've already had 4 amateur fights, when they get in there, just the product looks so much better. The sport looks cleaner. Mm-hmm. Like, from an outside perspective, if you have 2 people in there who know what they're doing, I don't care what kind of person you are in the world, you should be able to realize, oh, that's not just 2 people outside a bar. Like, they're really talented athletes. But
to be able to tell the difference, for sure. It's embarrassing when you watch the level of some other professionals. They call them pros. They train once a week. So
yeah. You should be ready for it's what's the old saying? It's not trained for a fight. Like, I don't know. You're kind of like ready all the time, pretty much, right? Like, it's just
a good one though.
I'll pull it out. I'll get another
20 minutes later.
All those people who just get in, they're like, I'll sign the fight, then I'll train. Right. Yeah. But no. Yeah, exactly. It was a really good high quality fight. I agree. I watched it a few times now, actually. And Toshido, he just fought 2 in the States, actually. Or you said he fought 4 times, huh?
I think he's fought like a couple times at least. I know that. It's not like I'm really following.
Niagara top team.
Like, I know he had that LFA fight, so good for him. It's good to see Canadians get those fights. That'd be awesome to be able to get down there. I don't know what the whole quarantine situation, all that is, that stuff, but.
Yeah, well, now they just changed the rules in Canada now. So if you come back, you have to quarantine mandatory in a hotel by the government and pay for it yourself.
Really?
They just made it. Yeah, just right now, today, they just said, so if you go anywhere, you come back, it's a mandatory 3-day government hotel, and you have to pay for it yourself.
Government?
Yeah, government, like rented or fucking whatever.
They come breakfast or what?
Delivery.
Exactly.
They canceled all the flights to like the Caribbean and Mexico and everything. So
the government can stop fucking going, I guess, eh?
They'll have to take their private jets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're Tyler knows one.
Here. Yeah.
Better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Yeah. True that. All right, man.
Rakes right now, I guess, eh?
What's that?
Is that a bunch of angry gardeners with rakes, I guess, right now?
Yeah, Jake Paul. What do you think of that fight?
Fuck that guy.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy.
Unreal.
Yeah, it really is unreal, man. It's disgusting. Like, yeah, we won't get into it, man, but it's a shame. It's a shamble. Like, yeah. What about advice? Let's give. We'll finish it off with some advice to some athletes. Kind of going through the same thing. Amateurs that are kind of wondering if they maybe should fight amateur more or go pro, or even the young kid who's 16 and wants to make this his career. Any advice for these people?
I think keep it as goals and not dreams too with fighting. Set a goal within fighting, but coach says something among those lines. But make sure you're working towards specific goals and that you're not just dreaming and putting the work in, because that's going to be more disappointing and harder than anything in fighting. So I'd just say for the young fighters, set your goals high, train as much as possible. And if you're the hardest working person in the room and you just be honest with yourself and set goals and execute, then you'll get a lot farther than just dreaming but not putting any work into it at all.
Very good advice, man. Some of actually best advice I've ever gotten this show. So very good advice, because there's a lot of young guys that I deal with who want to get to that level, right? And it's just like, man, you got so much. Like
Everyone wants to be Conor McGregor, but fighting's not like that.
Yeah.
So
the
set
sooner you can be,
your goals, you know. I mean, like best maybe in your gym, then best there, but like set them progressively, write them down, look to execute those, and just stay honest with yourself.
Nice. I love that, man. Stay honest with yourself, folks. Everybody should be doing that, just not if you're a fighter, you know, especially if you're watching fights, you should be really honest with yourself too. If you're playing,
you're not the guy you think you are.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, well, be nice to people, man.
Exactly.
Keep leading the way out there with a great team. Hopefully we can get yourself and Tyler out here. Steve, well, not Steven, he's gone to Bellator now. So, but you know, man, we'd love to get you guys out here at some point. And Tyler has good connections to the East Coast. So anything we can probably do in the future, hopefully we can. Or Ed Source, we got to reach out to Ed Source for you guys down at LFA. Get you on the LFA. Yeah, he was supposed to be on the podcast, so we're supposed to line it up here soon. So
congratulations, man. That's great. Good for you.
Fingers crossed. We're trying to keep building, man. We're trying to keep doing good things.
I appreciate it. I appreciate everything, putting on the events for the other people as well as anything for myself, and this is awesome. So
yeah, well, same with
you, man.
We're fans, man. So if we can help you out in any way.
I mean, you do jiu-jitsu yourself, right? You're a black belt, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll be at the 6 p.m. jiu-jitsu class. I'll do it. Awesome. I don't do gi jiu-jitsu, man, to be honest. Like I do, but I fucking hate it, to be completely honest. Like I don't find it fun in any way, shape, or form. I find when I train, as soon as someone gets grips on me, I just immediately I'm just like, all right, this is no fun. And I just defend the joke. Yeah, but no gi, I love the wrestling. I love it's just a different vibe for me, and the lag locks, and I don't know, I just find it a lot more fun. So I'd love to get out there. I really would.
And it'd be great to like train with anyone like yourself that's high level. That's awesome.
Oh, I don't know if I'm super high level, but you know, I've trained.
You got the black belt, man. You put in the time, so congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. All right, buddy. Well, let's keep in touch, and you know, be well. Keep spreading the positive vibes and love, and we'll be in touch very soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, man. Be well. There you have it, folks. Mr. Paul Blais Fisher. Awesome. Another great episode from a talented athlete out there, Toshido MMA. He trains with the likes of Coach David Lee. Again, one of the best gyms in the country. A great group of guys and girls out there. Justin Dodge, Steve McDonald, Tyler Van Kill, Blake Northman, I believe his name is. No, it's a Northman on Instagram. So, no, it's anyway, Blake. We'll just shout out Blake. And then a ton of other high-level athletes that compete out there too. So let's look. If you haven't seen his fights, it's on BTC on YouTube. And there's a couple other things out there. But make sure you're following these athletes that are up and coming in Canada, because it's in this sport, it doesn't take long. And a lot of these athletes, if they're not there yet, they're definitely going to be in the near future. So train smart, train hard, be good people, spread positive vibes, and try not to get wrinkles like me. We will see you this weekend, folks, on episode 143. Thanks to our sponsors at Beat It Sport. Check them out online, beatitcanada.ca. I'm out of here.